Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm Bob Walters. This is Locked Up Sports, and it's time for my favorite show of every year. And it without a doubt, it never fails. It's Bob Heussler Day here at Locked Up Sports, the annual beginning of the season Mets kind of get together with Bob Heussler. I had it yesterday. I spoke with him yesterday. And listen, he's a wealth of knowledge with baseball. He's a wealth of knowledge with the Mets. He's a great Mets fan. He's a great person. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He knows the players. He knows the broadcasters. He's got all the inside knowledge, and you put it all together, and it's just, you could talk to him for hours. I could talk to him for hours. We did like 40 minutes before the show, before we even hit record, and I'm going to put some of that out as some bonus content because some of that stuff is some of the best stuff we did. Like he says in the interview, we hope we didn't leave it all in the locker room. We didn't, because you're going to love the interview. And like always, he came through and he's always there for us. And he's just, listen, he was our first big name guest and people love him. Everyone loves the show and you're going to love this one. I promise. So let's get right to it. We'll see you on the other end, on the other side. Here he is, Mr. Met, Bob Heussler. All right, so now it's time for one of my favorite shows of the year. Every year, Mets season starts. Bob Heussler comes on the show. Bob, how you been? It's been too long. We just spent a half hour before the show talking, before we even got things going. So we covered it all already. Bob, how you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, you're right. I hope we didn't leave the game in the locker room there, Bob. Talking, just catching up. But I like that because that means we've reached a point now, we're buddies.
Yeah, absolutely.
The annual podcast get together. Enjoy your company.
Absolutely. And I'm still taking you up on that, going to a game with you. So I'm still going to take you up on that.
Yeah. You have stiff competition.
Yeah, I know.
I've noticed that when you give my deal is I have these 2 season tickets. I have the 20-game plan. They're good seats. And if you go with me, you're my guest. You don't pay for the ticket. There's a high demand for people.
I believe it. Hey, listen. Steve Summers and Mike Francesa can buy their own tickets. All right, I'm a civil servant, Bob.
What you want to do? You want to go to a game with Mike? He gets the real.
I was at a game with you when I was at a game when you and Mike were sitting there, and you were basically in the on deck circle.
Yes, yeah. That was fun. I was there. It was Mike. It was me. It was John Minko and
Summers. Yeah, Summers. Minko and Summers. Yeah, that's right. I saw that. So now the Mets. Listen, we're off. We're not off to the greatest start. It's 5 games. Who cares? People are jumping out of windows and stuff already. But
who?
No, there's people. Listen, there's people. I know you're not. We could be 30 games under 500, and you'll be telling me how we're going to go to playoffs. I give you all the credit in the world for last year.
There are 11 games below 500 last year in June. Do we need any more lessons than 2024? Please, people.
I got to get off of the social media. Because they drive me crazy. Sitting there,
those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it. Do not repeat the mistake of falling off the bandwagon too early.
Yeah. Listen, the Braves are 0-6.
0-7.
Oh, they 0-7 now?
0-7.
Oh, my God. 0-7. Yeah, they beat them last night, right? Oh, man. Yeah, so, hey, listen.
The Dodgers are 7-0.
Yeah, Dodgers might lose 10 games. Dodgers might lose less games than the Bulls did that year. I mean, they're incredible. They're blowing people out. The Dodgers are,
and Sasaki's not been good.
Right, but anyway, so the Dodgers, listen, they like I said, they might not lose it for a while now.
Yeah, and you see what the Padres' record is?
Yeah, wait, what are the Padres now?
They're 6-0.
They're 6-0. Okay, they won again. Okay. Oh, that's right, the Padres, and they swept the Braves.
Braves 0-7. My heart is breaking. Let me tell you.
Yeah, no.
How about Profar? I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant here.
Go ahead.
Not a rant, but I have a take on that. And I have a little bit of cynic in me. And anybody who thinks that Major League Baseball has rid itself of performance-enhancing drugs is really naive. And Jurickson Profar is the latest example.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets busted for HGH, which is a masking agent.
Yes.
So why would you take a masking agent?
Because
why?
Yep.
Yeah, and he parlayed that into a $52 million contract. Now they don't have him for half the season, and none of that money goes back to the Braves or whomever. Let the buyer beware. But it's disappointing to me. It was disappointing, and it's the Braves. So again,
But
fine.
still, it could be anybody. It could happen to anybody.
Yeah, it could happen to anybody, and yeah, my heart is not breaking because it's the Braves, and my heart certainly isn't breaking because Atlanta's off to an 0-7 start. But it's disappointing to know that stuff is still going on. And you know what? It's a competitive business. People
52
want an
million.
edge.
You said it, 52 million.
Thank you. And he goes from being not a bust, but kind of underwhelming with the Rangers. And then he ends up in San Diego and boom, off the charts. Maybe there are some red flags there if you look a little deeper.
If I was the team, I would force them, even if it does not a baseball test, I'd force them to take a test before you sign a contract. Listen, we want to sign you, but I want this test first. There are jobs that could do it.
But if you're taking the masking agent,
yeah, but they test for that too. I would test exactly what baseball tests. I'm going to give you the same test. I don't know now the union would obviously have all kinds of issues with that, but I'd be like, look what we're doing here. We just lost all this money.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that it's cat and mouse. And look, I don't need to tell you, I love baseball.
Yeah.
I love it. It just breaks my heart to know that there's still the shenanigans go on like that.
Yeah, no, it does.
So all right, I'm glad it was the Braves and not the Mets in this case.
Now, what do you think about the torpedo bats?
Well, I think if we do this again in 5 months, we're going to say torpedo. Oh yeah, torpedo bats. Yeah, that was a big deal in the first week of the season. I think it'll end up being a bunch of hoo-ha. My personal opinion, I would defer to Pat Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, who said after that series, it's not the wand, it's the magician. And yeah, I mean, I like the theory, meaning, okay, somebody actually said, in this case, what, a physics
MIT guy, yeah. Smarter than all of us,
Yeah, a physics guy said, all right, what if we take this and make it move it here, make it the sweet spot? Well, it makes sense. But in the end, you still have to perform. And I think it's the magician, not the wand.
Well, Lindor was using it. Lindor was using it. He went 0 for 11.
Yeah, he used it last season.
Yeah.
So one question I would have, again, with the whole thing with the torpedo bats being a topic right now, why weren't they, and talking about the Yankees now, all these Yankees shifted to the torpedo bat, 5 on the opening day lineup. Why didn't we hear about it in spring training?
I thought of that too.
So I didn't hear about it. The other thing is, you had the Brewers pitching is in shambles.
Yeah, 9 of 13, I think, are injured.
Yeah, Nestor Cortez. It's warm.
But 9 home runs, Bob, 9 in a game. That's a little fishy.
Well, it was warm, short porch, bad pitching.
You're right, short porch.
And it's fine. The short porch is there for the opponent. I'm not knocking the short porch relative to the Yankees. But if you look back at some of those home runs, the 9, at least 3 were short porch, if I'm accurate. Whatever. My point is, the torpedo bats, fine. We know this, if they actually do, over the long run, prove to be a difference maker, well, you're going to see them. You're going to see everybody adjusting.
They were already on order. I'm sure they were already on order for half the teams.
Yeah, I'll
just in case.
I think when all is said and done, I don't think they're going to be that big a deal. What I'll concede this, and I'll give credit to Jeff Passan. He said, listen, pitchers for a long time have benefited from the science of the sport. You hear about pitching labs, and you see these guys with the video breakdowns, making adjustments, pitching mechanics. Well, it's about time somebody tried to do something for the hitters, because we all know that batting averages are going down, and offense as a whole, they try to, well, look what they did, took away the shift, made the bases bigger, trying to inject a little bit more offense into the game, a little more excitement, more scoring, more interest. So fine, if you can give the hitters an advantage, and it's legal, and the torpedo bats are legal.
Yes, they are. They are legal. It's a little. It's not the spirit of the rule, but they're legal.
Yeah, no doubt. So fine, I'm all for it. I just don't think in the long run, Bob. Like I said, let's talk in 5 months. I don't think we're going to be talking about the torpedo bats as being one of the big developments of this 2025 baseball season.
Okay, yeah, and you need like you said, of course, you need a bigger sample size. And to me, I look at it, and I'm like, it's so simple. I can't believe we needed an MIT guy. Take more wood here and put it here. Like, how easy is that? I'm a SUNY student. I'm like, of course. I'm like, damn it. I could have, all these opportunities come and they just fly right past you, and you had it the whole time right in front of you. But, but the batting average is going down on purpose. They're trying. They don't care about the batting averages. They're doing launch angle. They want them to hit it in the air. They're okay with strikeouts. They're okay with all this stuff.
Well, that's analytics. Analytics told you a long time ago that launch angle is much more important than making contact, which is, why a guy like Luis Ariz, you would think this would be a guy in great demand. Tony Gwynn, he would not be somebody who is valued by the analytics.
He'd be like Brett Favre sitting out there still without a team.
Right. So, yeah, you're right. And absolutely that you have a dramatic decline in batting averages because of the way hitters now approach the game, get the ball in the air. So, yeah, but maybe it's easier to get the ball in the air, make good contact with the torpedo bats. We'll see.
In case you were wondering, Keith Rad agrees. Howie Rose hates
it. He hates the analytics.
The analytics, the launch angle and whatnot.
Yeah, I told Joe Beningo on the air many years ago. We were talking about this. I guess it was just a general question. What do you think of the analytics and baseball being now all numbers and I said it takes one of the things I hated the most, which is math.
Yeah, math. Yeah.
And combines it with something I love more than anything else, baseball. That being said, I understand the value. I understand it. I don't pay much attention to it. I certainly would never have ever been somebody who could be an analytics person.
No, none of it. They're all like, forget it. They're all like MIT guys. They don't even like baseball, half of them.
Yeah, well, no, this you see every front office is dominated by Ivy League.
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. Well, hey, listen, good for them.
We know the history. Start of Moneyball.
Yeah. And even like that, look at all a lot of the GMs. Look at even our president of baseball operations. He's young too. They're all young math analytic guys, And the owners, a lot of the owners, especially ours, is a stock market guy, numbers, and so he probably buys into it as much as anybody.
Yeah, which is fine. I just it just makes my eyes glaze over when I try to read. I'm an old school like you, Bob. I look at a box score and I don't need to go much, or I look at even stats these days and I see these columns.
Yeah.
and the different categories. And,
even I don't know all of them.
Right. And gets back to what I said about math. I'm more of an English subject guy in history more than the math side.
Oh yeah, I love history. I can watch the History Channel.
Stat categories, they look like algebraic equations. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, I'll be like, look, he's terrible. And look at this right here, it's terrible. And they're like, no, that's the best that number's ever been for anybody in the history of baseball. And I'm like, oh, what? I didn't even know.
Right.
But now back to the Mets. Listen, Manaea now, how big is this loss? I think it's huge. Because I think now Senga's got to be our ace. Because Clay Holmes, I don't put stock in what happened in the spring. He had a rough start the first thing. We can push that aside till he's pitching today. We need him to pitch better. We need Senga now to be an ace because I don't think we're going to see Manaea till late June, July.
Well, I agree with you, and that's why I think. And we're talking to you. I'm talking to you the day after Senga's first start.
Yes,
I was encouraged by that, And I was encouraged by it, and also had the same thought. On the same day that we found out Mania had a setback, and yeah, as you said, they're saying late May.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, you're right. You have every right to feel, okay, maybe we see him in by the All-Star break.
Yeah, he's going to be the trade acquisition, or trade deadline pickup.
Right. Who knows? But because it happened on the same day that Senga made his first start of the season, I'm like, okay, this is kind of symbolic. We need Senga to show us that he's good to go. And you know what? I mean, he'll not look back on the season, hopefully, well down the line, and say that was a great. It wasn't a great start, but I'll tell you what, I'll take 8 strikeouts over 5 innings.
Yes. But I don't like the first innings. He has first inning issues. That first 2 batters, walk, home run.
Yep. Yeah. Well, when he pitched last year, not the game against the Braves when he got hurt, when he pitched in the playoffs.
That was terrible.
Against Kyle Schwarber, first batter he faced. Boom. But, he'll deal with that. The one thing about him that he's intense. And if it's a first inning issue that he continues to have, I trust he's going to figure it out. But I looked at him last night, and the encouraging things were, he hit 75 pitches and came out healthy. He looks like he's good to go for his next start. And he had great stuff. He struck out 8 guys.
Yeah, eight guys.
And he didn't get help by, something that we're not going to see often, hopefully.
He got hurt.
That Lindor error.
2 of them.
The second one
killed him. The second one killed him, yeah.
And, okay, my point is Senga could have easily gotten out of that game, giving up only those 2 first-inning runs. And then we get what is becoming maybe really, we're, as I'm talking to you about,
the bullpen?
2 and 3. Oh, my God.
I know. I don't believe it either.
Well, it that's the key to any successful season.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are a lot of things that go, but if you don't have a good bullpen, you're doomed. The Mets may have an outstanding bullpen. Now, do I expect Max Kranick to continue to duplicate what he did last night, the Senga start? No, but Max Kranick is one of these guys.
He's been good.
Specializes in. They he's coming off injury. They like this. They like what they saw from him in his Pirates days, and he's a big Mets fan too. So
hey, listen, we'll take it.
Bonus points for that.
And when you're absolutely right about when you have a bad bullpen too, it's not only just the fact that they're backbreaking losses. When you blow it in the 8th inning, 3 out of 4 nights, and you're just like, I can't deal with this. And it's backbreaking for the team too. They're just devastating losses when you have a bad closer or something. It makes it almost compounds it.
When you have the ability to have a Max Kranick, put him in there and give you 3 perfect innings, save the bullpen for, as I talk to you, they're playing in a few hours.
Yeah, day game.
Now the bullpen is totally fresh. You can unload the arsenal. You're going to see, whomever, you got obviously the back end guys are good to go. Jose Budo is good to go. We haven't even seen AJ Minter really. He's eventually going to be a key guy. The names.
Stanek, yeah.
The bullpen's good.
You want to win today too. Good. You want to go home you want to win today, right? I mean, it's not a big game or anything, but you want to win today. You want to go home on a win.
Absolutely. You don't want to go home with a losing record. And here's just as important a point about the game we're talking about in real time. You can't be losing series to the Miami Marlins ever this season, ever. And you have them twice. You have them, today's the rubber game. Next week again at home. Then you don't see them again until August.
That's when I'd rather get them, in August, because they know they stink in August. We all know the Marlins stink. But right now they're like 4-2. They're sitting there going, we're going to be like the Indians of Major League.
Good point. Good point. But I'm confident, and I may look like a fool.
And they always play us tough anyway. They always play us tough.
They do.
Stupid Marlins.
I have no idea who these guys are.
No.
But like you said, in April.
Yeah. No, they believe now. We all think they stink. There's going to be 80% Met fans in the building today. There was yesterday. They believe they're going to the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I mean, they brought that kid in last night. This Ronnie Enriquez?
Yeah, we had no idea. The Mets couldn't touch him.
Just throw gas.
What kind of favor was that? They did him a favor, took Alcantara out. That's a gift. They bring in this guy nobody's ever heard of, and he's throwing the right past Soto and then Lind. I mean, come on, that was frustrating too. Because I mean, I'm like, oh, damn, what? But because it's the Marlins, like they stink. They're gonna stink. They're gonna lose 100 games or 95 games. But right now they're dangerous because they believe.
That's good. Well, that I agree 100%. Yet go win this series.
Yeah,
and then sweep them next week.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. I whenever the Mets have opened the season on the road, and I get ready, we get ready for the home opener. I always hated it when they came in either on the losing streak or have lost the game, right? You want them to
it doesn't have that opening day feel.
Yeah.
Last year was no good either.
That Friday.
Yeah. Wait, listen, the last two times they lost back-to-back opening days, 99 and 2000.
I was
pretty good years.
At the opener 99. I was in Miami. I took my late wife down there for a 3-day, 2-night. Let's go to Florida.
Yeah.
And she enjoyed going to the games, but
she liked the beach after the game better.
Right. Yeah, we went to the Clevelander and had a good time. Met
Clevelander,
down there. Clevelander. We turned into a good time, but lost that game. That was in '99, and then. As you said, and then in 2000 with the Tokyo game against the Cubs.
That's right, it was Tokyo.
4:30 a.m. first pitch. And, history says that when the Mets lose the first 2 games of a season in successive years, they go deep into the playoffs. So
yeah, let's hope. But now, and now what do you think about? I didn't like last night. Just speaking of last night, I didn't like that he put Batty in for Acuna. Late in the game, Acuna was having a decent game, right? He got a hit. Why? Batty has not been playing well. Beatty. I keep calling him Batty. Beatty has not been playing well. He's not been playing well. So far, Acuna has been better. I'm not saying put him down in the minors yet, but so far Acuna has been better. Why pinch hit him like that?
Yeah, well, I'll flip it on you. If he hadn't done that, if he hadn't taken advantage of the lefty-righty matchup.
We'd be sitting here yelling that he didn't do it.
And Acuna's up there and he strikes out or pops up, then he gets it the other way. So these guys, they're going to play the percentages. And also, this is a little bit too, this isn't to the weeds, but if you're Brett Beatty, that's a natural spot. You're thinking, okay, all right, here, they got a righty out there and we're late in the game and we need to get something going. This is why I'm here. And then you don't. All right, you've lost. Maybe you lose Brett Beatty. Maybe you've already lost him.
I think part of the reason he's played like this is because when they first brought him up, in that big series years ago against, I guess, Atlanta, and then they sent him down. And I think they played with his head a little bit in the beginning, and I think that that might have affected him a little bit.
Well, this is it. This is we're reaching the point where we're going to find out whether Brett Beatty is, as George Steinbrenner used to call them, morning glories. Every spring we see the great Brett Beatty come out, and then the lights go on, and you're like, "What's going on here?" You don't give up on guys like him, but it's not like they haven't given him a lot of rope either. So we'll see. We'll see.
He's destined. Listen, okay, good.
We're only 5 games.
No, I know.
Let's see.
But Beatty is he's destined to be on my list with Justin Turner and Jeff Kent, the former Met, now good. He's destined for that list, Bob.
Yeah. Well, all right. We go down the list. Jeff Kent, I had no problem with that. I didn't. I think Jeff Kent was played and.
Is he a Hall of Famer? Is he a Hall of Famer?
Jeff Kent, no.
I
just no.
I spoke to a guy, a voter, who was telling me that he thought, and I asked him, he said he didn't vote for Beltran. I said, did you give Beltran his punishment, and now you're gonna vote for him, like, obviously? And he's like, no, I think he's borderline. I was like, you're crazy if you think Carlos Beltran's borderline.
I totally agree with you. He'll get in.
Oh, yeah, he'll get in.
He's going to get in. Jeff Kent. Now, there may be, and I don't know how the analytics guys look at this. Remember, a lot of these voters are now a lot younger as the BBWA starts to age out. Now you get the new wave, and they rely heavily on the analytics stuff when they look at a guy's career. A guy who benefited from that greatly was Billy Wagner.
Yeah, who I don't think I'm not sure about him.
But again, that's my point. A lot of the numbers analytics guys say, well, you match this up against this guy, and I don't know how Kent fares in that regard, but I like to go with the Mike Francesa rule. If you have to think about it,
that's exactly what I say.
Yeah,
a Hall of Famer. A Hall of Famer. If I see you like he's a Hall of Famer. This guy's a Hall of Famer. This guy. If I have to be like, I don't know, maybe he's not in. He's not in. That's how I would do it too.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Because you just watch him, you could tell. Beltran was the best center, one of the best center fielders of generation. He's the best center fielder in Mets history. I mean, he you know what it was? He made it look too easy, I think, almost. And they're like,
Totally. Yeah. Again, you can't hold his personality against him. But the other thing about him, and let's leave the Houston stuff out of it, he's definitely paid a severe price for that. You talk to people who were around Carlos Beltran. David Wright's a good example. Ask David Wright about Carlos Beltran and how intense Carlos Beltran was when it came to the work that had to be put in. When David Wright was coming up, it was Carlos Beltran who he was his
mentor, maybe?
Not mentor, role model would be really the way of putting it. Because he watched how Carlos Beltran approached his day-to-day work. He said, okay, that's how a professional does it, and a great professional. Yeah, no, don't bring the Carlos Beltran stuff to me. And, I actually, I don't need to revisit what happened against the Cardinals.
No, and you can't keep someone out of the hole for that.
For goodness, no. I'm talking about Mets fans.
Oh, yeah. Listen, it's a sore spot. It's a sore spot, but still.
Go ahead. Try and hit that pitch.
Yeah, it was a good curveball.
Guess what? We didn't know who Adam Wainwright was.
No, you're right.
Well, guess what? He's a Hall of Famer.
That was a knee buckler, too. That was coming right at here, and right at his head. And it just, if they took a turn, and it fell in for a strike.
I don't want to get caught up in that game, but after the Endy Chavez catch, the Mets loaded the bases, and we know what happened.
We know what happened.
That 2006 Mets team. I mean, you've got several. The 1988 team that didn't get to the World Series would have won it all. That was disappointing. But that 2006 Mets team was so freaking good. But the pitching started to kind of leak oil at the end. And then the Cardinals, the game. I don't want to get off on a rant. I actually get physically upset.
Yeah, it's
when I think about.
It's not like last year. Last year we were like going. We were okay. I don't want to say you're okay with losing in the NLCS Game 6. We kind of expected it, right? We didn't really see ourselves beating the Dodgers in that series. We took them to 6. We fought them hard. I was at Game 5, and that was the game we had to win. Right, we couldn't lose at home in 5 games. It would have been go out with a whimper. We won that game. We got it back to LA, and the better team won. We were proud. We hung our heads high though as Met fans in the offseason.
Say that again.
We held our heads high as Met fans in the offseason.
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm getting to a point where I may not live long enough to ever see a season like that again. I hope that I'll see a championship again as soon as maybe this year, or maybe next year, or the year, whatever.
Or maybe both years, Bob. Maybe both years. Let's get a little greedy now. Come on.
But a year like last year, never again. Never again. No. Maybe not. You just don't. The only year in my Mets fandom, and I go back to 62.
73.
Bingo. 73 was like that. Now, different, but similar in the sense that, wow, they were in last place on August 30th, albeit a crap.
They were like 3 games out, right? In last place. It was all bunched together.
Whatever it was. And the other thing is, everyone was hurt that year. Everybody was hurt. And then they got healthy. But that was the way you had OMG. That was the Tug McGraw.
You gotta believe, right?
Believe season. That's when You Gotta Believe was coined. So you had OMG, you had You Gotta Believe. And Tug McGraw, not coincidentally, was a huge part of the resurgence because he had been hurt. He had been badly underperforming. And look at his September numbers. But that team was similar in the sense that you hit a better team in the Oakland A's, although they should have won that World Series. I'm talking about the '73 Mets. They should have won that World Series. And
what they lose? How many games?
Won 7.
Oh, went 7. That's right.
Went 7, and they had them on the ropes. I remember I was at all the games that postseason. I was fortunate because I had a buddy. It was my first year in college. I had a buddy. He attended Seton Hall. I went to high school with him. And think about this, Bob. He was able to, in those days, go and, like at 4 in the morning, and he did it for both the playoffs and the World Series. He would go to Shea Stadium, and he would get on, you'll see pictures.
Get on the line.
Long lines. So anyway, that's my long-winded way of saying I went to every game.
That's good, yeah.
Including the Pete Rose, Bud Harrelson.
The fight.
Yeah. I was right above the auxiliary scoreboard in left field.
The Armatron?
Yeah,
where it said Armatron, the Armatron watch?
Might not then. It may have been sponsored, that little scoreboard.
But right over there, right in that area.
I don't know about 73, but if you were to take a picture, they had the peace contingent when the fans started throwing crap on the field, and I was among them. But I didn't throw the whiskey bottle.
Okay.
I did have the New York Post. I had the Daily News. I commuted in from. I was in Connecticut, and I had the newspapers, and I started rolling up the newspaper. And I was throwing. So anyway, that peace contingent, Cleon, Willie Mays, Rusty, Yogi, they came out to left field, my section. If you had a camera behind them and took a picture, you would see me somewhere up there. So this is all part of '73. They beat the Reds, which was a huge upset. And then they get into the World Series against the Oakland A's, and the infamous moment in that World Series is Game 6. Now, I remember leaving Game 5, Shea Stadium against the A's, winning that game, brutally cold night, but leaving the game thinking, we're going to win another World Series.
You just won, too. You just won 3 years ago.
69 was fresh in our memory. We're going to win it again because of, what we still had our great pitchers ready to go. However, that's the infamous moment. Tom Seaver demanded, it is said, that he start Game 6. And Yogi caved. And everybody in retrospect says it should have been George Stone, a left-hander, who had a really good year for the Mets that year. And you would have had Tom Seaver ready for Game 7. And you also had John Matlack, who ended up pitching Game 7 and got shelled.
They got blown out in Game 7? What was it was a blowout?
It wasn't a blowout, but Reggie Jackson hit an early home run in that game. I forget what inning it was, but it came early. And boom, they jumped us pretty fast. Matlack didn't have it, and Seaver pitched okay, but not. I mean, in retrospect, you would have rather have had Tom Seaver going in Game 7, and George Stone starting Game 6. Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
But you got to get to Game 7. You could argue that too,
Again, we've gone into a rabbit hole here. My ultimate point is 73. You're in last place. And then you had a magical September, the ball on the wall game. You can look that one up.
Okay.
Where
the Black Cat was the Black Cat 73?
No, 69.
69. Okay.
69 against the hated Cubs.
The Cubs. The Cubs.
The ball on the wall game. David Augustine, Cleon Jones takes the ball. Anyway, Richie's. That's the Pirates. Look it up.
I will. I'm looking all this stuff up. I love this history stuff.
defying that September comeback, and then they win. They clinch it against the Cubs that year on a rainy day in Wrigley. It's supposed to be a doubleheader. They only had to play one game to clinch. Now you're on your way. You beat the Reds, and you should have beaten the A's in the World Series. And it was, you got to believe, year. Last year, OMG year, and it fell short, just like 73 fell short. What we don't want happening is 73 was that was it. Then it started, and it was a slow decline.
Until I get to mid 80s.
Yeah, well, June 15th, 1977, Bob, is really, for me, it's a time place thing. You know how, there are certain moments.
Yeah, of course.
Like events.
Yeah. 9/11. 9/11 is my generation. You got the Kennedy
9/11.
Assassination. You got stuff like that.
Right. I'm old enough to remember a teacher walking into my classroom. I was a third grader, and she was in tears.
When Kennedy
literally
got
shot. She had been called out, and then she came back in, and then, that was so you remember. It was the Kennedy. You remember. I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing, and I heard that the Mets had traded Tom Seaver on June 15th, 1977. And it was as if, somebody had told me that the family the dog had died.
And I've heard this a bunch of times from people like in your generation. The same type of story.
And here's what I'll also say as I talk, to the old guy stuff. Any Mets fan of a millennial or Gen Z or whatever who thinks that whatever you name the years, those bad years, 2009, 2000, whatever. Name your bad Mets year where you think this is awful.
90s for me, and there's somewhere now those early 90s teams.
Yeah. Those the worst teams.
Dallas Green teams.
Before Bobby, I'm gonna look you right in the eye here on our little get together and tell you that nothing comes close to how bad it was post Seaver, 1977, 78. 79 and 80. Nothing.
I believe it.
Close to how bad. Here's how bad it was. Opening day, meaning this coming Friday, sold out. You can't get a ticket. And it's been that way pretty much since the mid 80s. In 1977.
Oh, wait, they didn't sell out opening day back then? In like the 70s?
15,000 people.
Wow.
Like 78, 70. Bob, in 1978, I started my streak of going to home openers.
You got like 50, right? What's this, 51?
Yeah, this is 51. I've actually been to more than that. But anyway, my streak began in 1974. 2020 doesn't
15,000?
Count. 15,000? Okay.
Yeah.
But
15,000 is crazy.
I could walk up with my buddies in 78, 79, go to the box office on opening day and get box seats. I could buy box seats on
Field
opening
level orange
day. Yes. Those teams don't. Again, I respect all Mets fans. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
But don't complain about any of those years because nothing was worse than post Seaver years. So
see, mine was like I got like Vince Coleman throwing the firecracker. I got stuff like that. But those are bad teams, but they still sold out opening day. We were still at opening day going, all right, we were the Marlins this week. All right, we start 4 out of 6. Maybe this is the year.
Right.
Then they lose 30 out of 20, 35, and it's over.
Yeah. And I hate to forget the negative. We're in good times now.
I was a big Todd Hundley guy. I was a big Todd Hundley guy going there watching him hit his 40 home runs.
Absolutely.
And then of course we find out he was juicing. And you're like, of course he was juicing. How did we not see that? I was there when he broke the record of the home runs. But speaking of the game 6, I was at the Harvey game against the Royals. Game, what was that, 5? And I'm not gonna sit here and lie. And I was there chanting Harvey right along with everybody else.
Yep.
And you know what? We shouldn't have let him go back out. But it is what it is. We got caught up in the moment. He was our guy, and it just didn't work out. I tell people, what I tell people? I said, one time I saw the Royals win the World Series. in person.
Terry Collins says that's the biggest mistake of his managerial career.
Yeah, but I don't blame him for it. I don't blame him for it.
I don't either. I'm 100% with you in that moment. I was above home plate, cheering my ass off, saying, go get him. He comes charging out, and
yeah, we all went crazy. Yeah.
Should have pulled him after the first. He walks the first back.
Yes. But again, we were all sitting there. We all got caught up in it. We were all chanting Harvey. We all would have probably sent him out there if we were in the dugout managing. So I don't blame him. And what are you gonna do? It just wasn't our year. And it sucks. It sucks. But it wasn't our year. And now, does it bother you that? Because last year was what I tell people all the time. I go, last year was my favorite Mets team as an adult. Like I've already missed and I've told you this before. That's why the '94 Rangers will probably always be my favorite team, because it happened at a prime time for me. 14 years old, just the prime time to win. Go to the parade.
69.
Exactly. 14. That will always be my team.
Yep.
And it's different now. Like now, okay, I got kids, and you got life is happening. So it's just not the same. But last year was my favorite Mets team as an adult. And I had so much fun. And I didn't think it was going to happen. I had Laura Albanese. She's a writer for Newsday. Mets beat writer. Good writer. Great. Come on the show. Great interview. She was, and she was sitting there, and it was the day of the Braves game, the doubleheader. And I had her on, and I was like, and she's like, a lot of people are saying that the Mets, no, I'm sorry. It was the day, it was just after the series, before the playoffs. And she goes, a lot of people were saying, they're expecting it. I go, who do you know? What Met fans do you know that said that they were expecting them to win? I go, the only thing I thought we had going for us was when that ball against the Phillies hit the bag, when Alvarez tried to throw behind the runner the couple days before, to hit that bag and bounce straight up rather than bounce down the line. Because every other time in my life, that thing goes down the line by the tarp, and 2-run score, and we lose, and then we go lose 2 out of 3 to the Braves. And I had said for months, I go, we better go into. I knew that Braves series was going to be something. That we got to a point where I knew that Braves series was going to be something. I'm like, we better be able to lose 2 out of 3, and still be okay. Because there's no way we're going in there and winning 2 out of 3. No way. And they did. They went in there and they were like, okay, we could lose 2 out of 3 and still be okay because of that Phillies series. And then the game with the doubleheader. I mean, that was just, I can't take any of those things. And I'm only 40. I can't even imagine. You're even older than me. I almost had a heart attack.
I'm surprised some of my neighbors didn't call 911 because I had the door open, the screen door. You could hear me out in the parking lot. I live in a little condo complex, and I think I scared the neighbors during the summer.
Yeah, and we were speaking about the bullpen. You know what else? But what made me smile is that the Yankees signed Adam Ottavino.
Yeah, that's a stock.
I can't with Adam Ottavino. I feel like he's been on the team for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, he's obviously he's on the other side of it, and God bless him. He's a New York guy, and he goes back.
He bothers me, but hey, listen, this team. You're going on what? Saturday, right? Is it afternoon game? It's the afternoon game, right? Oh, Friday afternoon, right? Who gets the biggest cheer? Now, I would say Lindor maybe, but Soto, Alonso. Lindor's that can't go in there hitting 048 and expect to get a big cheer, no matter what you do. But Soto or Alonso, who you giving it? Who you happier to see?
Oh, it'll be Soto.
Oh, Soto.
I'm not telling you who I cheer them all.
You don't boo. You don't boo.
Oh no! I've only booed a few Mets for lack of hustle. I've been at games and I always make sure they can hear me. I'm the times I booed. I can remember at Shea Stadium, I was in the box seats and somebody come off the field. And if you don't hustle, I'll boo. But I never boo because somebody's not performing well. And you can tell, all right, like a Beatty. I wouldn't boo Beatty. That would be a good example.
Vientos didn't hustle last night, but down the line. Vientos.
That I didn't like. Did not like that at all. I'm glad you brought that up. You see, that I wouldn't boo it because there's not a repeated.
But you're not good enough to do that yet. You're not good enough. You're not staying. You had one good year.
No. I didn't.
Makes me think it's going to his head a little bit because we've all been like, oh, we got our next, we got the next great third baseman here. Slow down. Pump the brakes. Vientos.
Yeah, and I think Gary, Keith, and Ron, and that was Gary and Keith
Gary and
last
Keith.
night.
Yeah, Gary and Keith.
They made a good point. Gary and Keith engaged in a conversation about should somebody talk to him or when. And I think Keith said, let him cool down. You don't want to say something in the moment, but after the game, Mendoza should, or somebody, or a Lindor should say, hey, that inning where you didn't bust it, and we would have been able to, have a base runner. I didn't like that, but okay, get him. He could take a mulligan on that one, as far as I'm concerned. But don't ever read that again.
I mean, I get it. We're facing the vaunted, with Marlins bullpen. So you're probably not coming back anyway,
It's amazing. But a lot of even these bad teams, they bring all these bullpens have guys that come in and they're throwing nitro.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. But getting back to your question about opening day cheers, I mean, I love Lindor, and I'll cheer them all loudly. I'll really cheer loudly for Alonso. I was at the final regular season game last year. Remember that game where he got up and everybody knew?
Yes. Yeah, we weren't sure because they weren't sure if they were going to the playoffs yet.
Right. Yeah. And so I was there that night, and I actually was behind home plate. So my point being, I could really.
You were with Mike. You were with Mike.
Every once in a while I get lucky.
Yeah.
And, that night I got the good seats.
I want Guerrero. I want him to have a big year this year and gone. I want Guerrero.
Well, we'll see how he gets cheered on Friday. But
that's right. You're right.
I was cheering loudly when Alonso in that Phillies game regular season finale was maybe taking his last at bat as a Met, and I was yeah. And I'll be the same way on Friday. But Soto signing with the Mets, this is a transformative moment for the franchise. I mean, the fact that they did this when really nobody realistically expected this, most particularly Yankees fans.
No, yeah, but now they're acting like they don't care, that we didn't want them anyway. And I love it. I love it. Like, give me a break. Stop with that. And they're all saying it.
Fine. I'm okay with it. Them,
week
write
into the
history
season,
however you want. But the fact is, it's never happened. The Mets have never beaten the Yankees in that game. And not only did they beat them in that game, they bring on a guy who is generational. Talking about Hall of Famers, he's a guy who would be like, he's putting up Hall of numbers. Now, and say, wow, okay, he's right there. And he hopefully will represent a moment in this franchise's history. They say, okay, there's the moment. They took the organizational mindset, who we think we are, and brought it to another level. Thus, on Friday, I'm pretty convinced Juan Soto will absolutely get the largest. And all those other guys will be well received, but Soto will get a resounding ovation.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, and they're gonna because of Alonso. And I don't think the Mets really wanted Alonso. I think when they gave him when they offered that $70-something million contract that he turned down, I think that was kind of like, okay, listen, we know he's not going to take it. Steve Cohen, I know that if I make no offer, the fans are going to kill me. I got this amazing day coming up. I got to go sit on a panel. I don't want to get killed. They end up chanting Alonso anyway. I don't think they wanted him. Even when they got him, I know they flew down there, but I think it was kind of like, and even when he spoke at the Amazing Day, Steve Cohen was like, yeah, we got to move on. Move on, people.
It was a game they were playing, Bob. And the fact is, the Mets played it brilliantly because when all those first basemen when all the teams that needed first basemen started signing guys like, for example, the Yankees are probably the easiest example. When they signed Paul Goldschmidt,
that's right.
And the Alonso camp force, okay, check that one, strike that. And then you had the Mariners, I know, were a team that has had some interest. I knew
Toronto,
of course. I knew the Mets were in really good shape with Alonso when I read the Cincinnati Reds could be a mystery team here. I'm like, there's no way that Pete Alonso and the Reds are a match. So what's happening in December and January is you've got both camps, including the Cohen camp, putting crap out there that we're reading. Like if a John Heyman writes something, it's because somebody is, and you're trying to promote your own agenda, whether you're the Mets side, the Cohen side, or whether
we
you're
needed
the
something.
Boris
Yeah,
side.
they needed something too. The writers are dying for something there.
Yeah, and you're reading, Alonso's gone. Not. Well, somebody wants you to think he's gone. He's not gone. Somebody's making you. And so it's a game. And the Mets played it brilliantly because the market eventually developed that the only match for Pete Alonso was the Mets.
I know.
It was the Mets.
They did. They waited. It was a waiting game, and it was kind of like a game of chicken. And right. Do you think Boris got in Alonso's ear and said that home run was going to be worth an extra 3 years on a contract? And listen, thank God they didn't pay it. But I kind of think maybe that there's something like that. He's like, listen, this is an iconic home run. You can't pay. And some fans want it. You can't pay someone an extra 2 or 3 years and X amount of millions of dollars because of that home run. That home run, you know what that home run's worth? That home run's worth a lifetime of standing ovations at Old Timers Day at Citi Field. It's not worth 3 more years on a contract.
Yeah, and it's possible that he thought that maybe that flipped it. And, okay, now at least I'm in a position where before that home run, I didn't have as much bargaining left.
No, he rolled snake eyes. He rolled snake eyes all season until that home run.
Yeah, he did. He did. That was a 7, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, listen. I would have given him the money, but I mean, that's why I'm not the GM.
But, yeah, I mean, that helped him. And I think it also put him in a space where, Gary Cohen has talked about this. They all figured a monkey off his back. Finally, okay, and meaning carrying into this season as well. He'll be fine. Pete Alonso's Pete Alonso. You know what he can do.
Listen, we're telling him he rolled snake eyes. He had 30 home runs.
Right. And you know what? He plays a pretty good first base now. He's not Keith Hernandez. No one is.
No.
But he's a serviceable first baseman, and he's still a premium. He's going
to break Strawberry's record in 2 months.
Yeah. This is somebody who, every team needs that guy. That guy who can hit the ball 420 feet and change the course of a game, in the snap of the fingers, especially in the postseason.
Would you put Soto behind him in the lineup? I almost feel like I would rather have Soto protecting him.
No, I like Soto exactly where he is.
Because Nimmo's not a cleanup hitter.
Well, look, who's going to have benefit, obviously, from this is Lindor.
Yeah.
And anybody.
He's hitting 048, by the way. 048. No, we know that. That's what he does.
Oh my goodness! And plus, he didn't look good last night. I'm not talking about the 2 errors.
That was a drawn-in infield that he got the hit off of. Anybody could have got that.
Yeah, well, he got to hit the ball.
You're right. I wouldn't have got it, but I was struck out on 3 pitches. But
I am not worried about him at all. And
no,
with Soto behind him, no, he'll be fine. I know it's easy to think, you drop him down to third and put or protect Alonso. No, I like it the way.
You know what? You were the ultimate optimist anyway. Last year, we're gonna be 40 games into the season. They're gonna be 10 under 500. You're like, last year, don't worry about it. We're good.
I'm so
because I'll give you credit. You're the only one. You were one of the only ones who told me, don't worry about it. There's something special about this team. I'm texting you at Citi Field and going, this team stinks. What are we doing? You're like, there's something special. I'm like, this guy's crazy. I'm like, he's crazy, Brad. He's crazy.
Turns out to call something up on my phone here. I want you to see something because I was at two games last year that for me were the turning point games. Now the real turning point was the game in England when Torrens made that incredible play. I don't know how we won that game with him touching the home plate.
The double play. You're right. I forgot about that game.
For me, that's the moment. However, I will say this, and it turned out that I every once in a while I get this right if I can find this damn picture. I got it. How about that? I'm getting better with the phone. Let me call this up here so you can see it well. There's had 2 games. One was the OMG game. I mean
The glove,
the dopey. No,
the Hawk Tua girl,
the
Grimace,
no,
Grimace,
close. No, the Grimace.
Grimace. Yeah, the McDonald's guy.
Now
You're at the Grimace game. Okay.
I'm not a McDonald's guy. If I go to
Unfortunately,
McDonald's, I'm the dope that goes and gets their coffee's good. So
Okay.
I get coffee. And I have grandchildren. I don't take them to McDonald's. I swear to God, I'm with my partner Susan, and this big purple blob's on the mound. And I'm like, throw out the first pitch. This is in June, and I'm like, what is that? And she says, that's Grimace. I said, well, and then she says, McDonald's character. I said, oh, cool. So I was at that game, which of course, like we started to see the Mets record.
Sparked the win streak.
And you did talk about the glove. I'm about 12 rows behind the Mets dugout. And there it is.
Wait, let me say. You caught it?
The guy, it was a Yankees fan who caught it. And he was about 2-3 rows in front of me.
Wow.
He's walking up the aisle. And I turned to Susan and I said, I got to get a picture of this glove.
Yeah.
Because, and here's what I said. I said, this is either going to be the season going completely off the rails.
Oh, yeah. It was already going off the rails.
We're as mad as hell, and we're going to not take it anymore. And it's going to go either way. I said, we can either start to turn this thing around from this point, or we go right into the tubes after this Jorge Lopez.
The fact that you even had the other side is outrageous. It's outrageous. It's crazy. I went on this show and I go, what are we going to do? Who's going to take Lindor's contract? How are we going to get rid of this? I swear. I was like,
all right.
This guy stinks. This guy stinks.
Another point about last season that I think Steve Cohen sometimes tweets too much, and he seems to have cut back on that. There's stuff he says. I'm like, why don't he hear the owner?
He lets Stearns do his job. He lets Stearns do his job now.
Oh, he does. But sometimes he gets involved in petty stuff. I'm like, stay away from that stuff. But last June, Bob, when people were saying sell, and David Stearns, you might remember in May when the Mets were in the crap.
Said I'm not selling. Yeah, said I'm not selling, right?
He says, no, I'm not selling, and I think this team, he said, I still think this is a playoff team. He says, I still think we can do this.
And we're like, oh, great. Now, we got a lunatic on our hands.
He was whistling past the graveyard.
Yeah.
But he was calm. But here's what I'm talking about with Steve Cohen. When everyone was saying sell, his point was, what message am I sending about building a winning mindset? And I was talking about that with the Soto stuff. What message am I sending to everybody about our commitment to a positive winning culture here if I dump, if I sell, if I give up on the season? So he made the decision, I'm not going to do that. We're in this because I want to send a positive message to those guys in the clubhouse because I still believe in those guys. And I'll never forget that because for me, Steve Cohen standing up for what he wants this organization to become was a real key moment. It's a small thing, but in retrospect, obviously he was proven correct. Dave Stearns was proven correct. It was a magical season, but the elements of what that team could be and became were all there, and they saw it. And then it turned into, a magical run.
Yeah, it did. And listen, and it's got to be hard. Listen, if me and Brett were talking about, when the whole thing with Woody Johnson came out, where he had his hands and everything, he was telling the bench Rodgers. I said, listen, if I can't sit here and argue with it. If I was the owner, I'd be on the sideline calling. I'd want to call the plays into the helmet. That's why I bought this damn team, right? I want to play with this thing. I want to be the one call. I want to call the plays. I'd make myself manager. Because I could do it, right? We could do it. I'm good.
Well, I'll take the Steve Cohen approach over the Woody Johnson approach.
Absolutely. No, I would too, but it's got to be tough because you want to play with your toy, and this is his toy.
Yeah, and you don't know what he's saying to people behind the scenes. I'm not saying meddling. I'm sure these guys, these owners, even the owners that stay out of it.
I'd be making trades. I'd be making trades, not even telling the GM. Forget it. I'd be doing all kinds of stuff, and they would run me out of town. But I'd have a blast doing it.
I hope we get to the point when I'm on your podcast
and people are running me out of town, right?
you own a big media.
That's right.
Company and an empire, and
that's right. Well, you'll always be on the podcast every year, Bob. As long as we're both here on Earth, you're always on the podcast. You're my favorite. Always my favorite guest. I always say that.
I'm a legacy on Locked Up.
That's
Sports,
right. That's right. You were the first. You were the first. You were the first named person I got. When I remember telling to my wife, going, I think that's Mr. Met behind us. She goes, well, what the hell are you talking? Mr. Met's over there. He's on the other side. I go, no. From Mike's show. And she's like, she goes, I don't know. I don't know if that's him or not.
Well, here's the thing. We met at a Mets game, so it was meant to happen.
It was a good game, too. It was a walk-off.
Yeah, that's right. We were high-fiving.
Yeah. I was like, this is great. And I couldn't even get the question out. I was like, you think you might want to? I go, I'm going to ask him if he wants to come on the podcast. She's like, go ahead. She's like, and I was like, you think you want it? And you were like, absolutely. I was like, yes, we got it. And then then 2 years later, I'm on SNY doing after the Mets playoff game. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Now you are definitely becoming a brand now.
I try. I'm like Gary, Keith, and Ron. And I'm not like Keith Rad either. I'm really a Mets fan.
Wow, you just threw him on the bus.
I liked him. I had a good time. Listen, I needled him, and he knew it. He knew he was getting it because the second he said I grew up a Yankee fan, he goes, listen, now I know. Everybody is going to say a fraud. I lost half the audience already. And I was I was sitting there shaking my head. I'm like, yeah, Yankee fan. Okay. And then what happened was we started talking about the Giants, and and Brett made a comment because Brett's a Jets fan. I was like, Brett's a Jets fan. I go, at least we got the Giants, right? We got a couple Super Bowls. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, you got that World Series all over the place. I was like, forget about this.
And see, I give him credit though because he talking about Keith, he admitted to it,
and he's a good broadcaster. Does a fantastic job.
I like him. He and Howie are a nice combination. That's not easy because of the generation gap.
Exactly.
Or several generations.
Exactly. But anyway, hey, listen, Bob, go enjoy opening day. I got stuff to do. I got work and everything. As always, it's a pleasure. I love talking to you. I love having you on the show. You're always welcome here. And I'm going to see you at Citi Field this year, Bob.
Yeah, well, I have a list. You're on that list.
I'm on the list.
I call it Mets fans attendee list, and I have a bunch of people on there. You're on the list.
I'll take you to a game. We'll sit in the upper deck, Bob. Come say, we'll sneak down. We'll sneak down to the other seats.
Okay. I want you at a game with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to take you up on that. Absolutely.
You'd enjoy it. So we'll do it. I'll think about you on Friday afternoon.
Absolutely.
And we'll see if Soto does get the loudest ovation. But as the season moves along, we'll keep in touch. And
absolutely, we always do. And let's get a win today, right? Let's go home. Let's go home even at least.
Best way to do it.
All right, Bob Heussler, everybody. Bob, thanks, man.
Always a pleasure, Bob. Thank you.
How about that? Thank you. As always, to Bob Heussler, the one and only. And listen, doesn't get any better than that. You're not going to get stories like that anywhere else. You're not going to get knowledge about the Mets. He's as good as it gets, and we want to thank him again from coming on. I mean, listen, he's a ginormous name in New York sports broadcasting. The Tate George, 30 years at WFAN with Mike and the Mad Dog. He did the updates my whole life growing up, and now I consider him a good friend, and we just want to thank him a million times over for coming on and doing this every time. And like I said, I could talk to him for hours, and we just have a blast every time. And we hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. So listen, Bob Heussler, again, Mets play. They ended up winning the game last night. Alonso with a big home run. Again, he's playing well. They go back home. Opening day is Friday at 4:00, I believe it is, the first pitch. And Bob will be there for the 51st consecutive time. And hopefully, when we have him on next, we're talking about playoffs and World Series, and we'll have him on maybe even during the regular season. I'm gonna be going to a game with him. Listen, it again. Thank you to Bob Heussler. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, we got the Final Four coming up. We'll do shows on that. It's a big weekend, and it's a big week, and then we go. It's my birthday. My birthday is Sunday, I believe. Yep, Sunday, April 6th. I turn 43 years old. Unbelievable. So send in your birthday wishes now. Get your stuff together. So that does it for us. From the Brian Gunzel Studios, again, thank you to Bob Heussler. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. I'm Bob Walters. See ya.